Hi, my name's Mike Pollock, the voice of Eggman and many other characters, and you're watching Comic Book Cast.
Hello and welcome to another CBC interview with me, Tom Carter, and today we have a very special guest, the voice of Dr. Eggman with us, Mr. Mike Pollock.
No, I knew I remembered my name from somewhere, and that's exactly where. I'm just great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you, and thank you for taking your time out to be with us. First question, how do you get into voice acting?
As a child, I loved listening to the radio and, of course, watching cartoons because I was a child, and I was so fixated on the sound of things that I eventually realized I could probably do that. I listened to enough cartoons and enough children's records, which were essentially audio-only offshoots of cartoons, that I picked up some acting tips by osmosis and eventually launched a career not only in various community theater productions but also in radio, and realized while I was in radio that what I really enjoyed was doing the wacky voices in commercials. So eventually, when radio itself decided I should be doing other things, I proceeded to do more just commercial voices only.
What other roles did you have in the industry?
A variety of things. I was a part-time midday and weekend air personality playing your favorite, more favorites with less talk, as we said on one of our stations. And I also ran the board for the Rush Limbaugh program. As a local affiliate, I would help with the morning show. I was allegedly the morning show producer. I was a production director for a while. But the greatest joy came from recording voices.
That's very cool to know. What is a normal day of voice acting for you then?
As a freelance independent contractor, there is no normal. I will either spend a day responding to online auditions, as I have been today, or occasionally being sent out to in-person auditions somewhere in Manhattan, or if I'm even luckier, going to a booking as a result of an audition that I've had earlier. So I hope to spend as much of the day as possible working in some way, but that's not always the case.
When you play a role, what goes into the part?
I make sure that I have an idea from the director and the producer what they want, and that we've worked together to find a voice that's going to fit whatever character they want. And then I just talk and take direction from the director to make sure that I can adjust my performance to give them what they want.
Nice. What have you been working on recently?
We are heavily into production for the Sonic Boom cartoon, which premieres fall 2014 on Cartoon Network in the States. I assume it's somewhere international, don't know where yet. I've got a bunch of other little commercial things happening for local car dealers, local restaurants, or some restaurants that are not local to me, but working with various agencies in their local areas. Did some e-learning things, some TV audio recreation stuff for a TV crime show type thing, all sorts of stuff.
Very busy then.
Whenever possible.
Your most well-known role is Eggman from the Sonic the Hedgehog game. Did you know anything about him before coming in to voice him?
I had a vague notion that he existed, but I essentially had on-the-job training. I learned everything from doing Sonic X for 3 years and getting notes from directors and doing the other games that followed that.
Yeah, I heard they wanted you to imitate Dean Briscoe, so you had something to work off a little bit.
Exactly. I started with imitating Dean Briscoe until we realized you can't do a lot of comedy with Dean Briscoe's rare, 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 rare. So we eventually made lots of highs, lots of lows, and turned it into something fun.
You did the voice of Ellen in Sonic X. How did that came about in the first place? Because some people don't know you didn't do that role.
I was in recording an Eggman session when the producer walked in and said, "Say, have we cast Ella the Maid yet?" And the director said, "No." "Oh, let's have Mike do it." So I said, "Okay, I don't know what you want me to do. You want something like this? What do you want? I don't know." So I said, "Yeah, we'll try that. We'll get back to you." Came in for my next session the following week. "Oh, so am I doing that Ella the Maid thing?" "No, we got someone else to do it." "All right, then." 1 week after that, came in for another session. "Guess what? You're Ella the Maid." So there I was.
Yeah, I had a friend who didn't even know that you voiced that role, and he was laughing his head off about it when he heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. How do you get into the mindset of Eggman or any other role you do?
At the moment, I'm pretty good at getting into the character with an on a dime turn, because I've been doing it for so long. But basically, I channel anything that's making me angry lately. Any recent customer service disputes that I've had, problems with the bank, that sort of stuff. I can always channel that.
Yeah, it could have been amazing. You've been voicing Eggman since back in 2003 now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've been doing the role over 10 years now, and a fantastic job at it too.
Thank you.
What is your favourite line you've done on a project you work on?
I don't keep track of favorite lines because one of the things about voice acting is you don't have to remember dialogue. So I'm not paying attention when I'm recording it long enough for me to remember it once I've left the booth.
Is there any voice you've done that is particularly one of your favourites?
Like any voice that makes me laugh. One of my earliest roles was Meat from Ultimate Muscle. And you can't, how can you not laugh at a big truck driver voice like this coming out of a little guy like that?
I love Meat. I used to love Ultimate Muscle when it was on TV.
Excellent.
You did the voice of Beast in the motion comic animation, Astonishing X-Men, Griff, Tor, Unstoppable. Have you read any of the comics, any of the X-Men comics, or seen any of the films?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the technology behind it was very revolutionary at the time.
No, again, that was a situation of I knew they existed, and I've probably seen Beast while walking through my local comic store looking at other stuff, but I had no conscious knowledge about him.
Did you know about this whole motion comic thing they were trying to do at the time with this project?
It's a fairly new concept. I figured out what it was fairly quickly, but it was cutting edge at the time.
Yeah, and you did 3 episodes in total, I believe?
Yeah, there were 3 episodes of it, I believe.
Have you read any comic books or seen any big superhero films at all?
Not any comics of consequence. Occasional issues of Archie comics would show up in the house for nothing when there was nothing better to do, and had some Dennis the Menace books, but no serious comic affection.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2003. You voiced many roles on that show. What is your favourite one?
The 2 big ones that I did were probably both equally favorite. Garbage Man, who was just a disgusting, gross character, and that was fun because in order to make him sound as drooly as possible, I had my usual bottle of water with me, but I made sure to take a drink before each take, so I would be extremely salivating. And then when I voiced Kirby, because he was based on the legendary artist Jack Kirby, and I was able to do a little research and try and find a somewhat accurate voice so I could do a somewhat accurate representation of a real-life human being.
That's actually kind of funny. That leads into my next question, actually. In the episode The King, you played Jack Kirby, comic book artist and writer. How was it playing someone that legendary in the comic book industry?
It does come up a couple times a year. It wasn't as much of a big deal when I was doing it, but when it was brought to me and they said, we'd like you to read for this, and they explained this is a real guy, so I figured it was worth doing some actual research, and it was a bit of a challenge finding voice clips, but I got some, realized it sounded like a relative of mine, so I used that voice in my head as a template, and over the years people come back and said, really like that Kirby thing. So, thank you.
Yeah, because that episode had tons and tons of comic book references in it, with monsters and even the art style.
Mm-hmm.
On your website, itsamike.com, you do something called The Latest Deadline. Can you tell us what that is about?
Sure. I've always had a knack for comedy throughout my entire life, and one of the things when you're in radio, especially in a radio newsroom, which I would, if not be working next to, when famous people die, news people have a way of dealing with it by making jokes, and I had always done that in my private free time. And then I realized, we should collect these and preserve them. And the best way to do that just might be a blog. So I started a blog with a couple of friends of mine who have a similar type of humor. And when celebrities die, we get to work.
Is there any cool stories you can tell us about in the voice acting world in general?
I'm having a grand old time working on Sonic Boom because it's a bi-coastal project. Everyone else, for the most part, is in L.A. I remain in New York most of the time. And we're essentially working over Skype so we can hear each other. But a fine, first-rate group of talented people, and I'm delighted to be part of it.
That's amazing how you can do this all over Skype.
Mm-hmm.
You probably get this a lot. Is there anything you can tell us about Sonic Boom? Because it's meant to be a comedy as well. Is anything you can tell us about the comedy?
That's pretty much all I can say. I will add that I'm laughing a lot when I'm recording, so...
So I'm guessing it's very verbal comedy then as well.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say intelligent.
So I guess we're going to have to wait until it be revealed to actually find out what's going on. But is there anything else you've been working on at all that you like to tell us?
Nothing of any earth-shattering importance. There are a couple of online web-based commercial videos you'll be seeing me in. But again, since they're not released, I can't tell about them in detail. The best thing to do is watch my news feed on my website at itsamike.com and the This Just In set, or social media, Facebook and Twitter, both on It's a Mike, where I will announce things like upcoming web videos.
I got some questions from the fans. Would it be all right to ask you a few of those questions?
Not at all.
Awesome. So let's get on. Let's get on with it then.
Excellent.
Mike, what are some of the challenges you face as a voice actor? How do you get around them?
The biggest challenge probably is rejection, or in most cases, being ignored. And it's just something you get used to. Recently had an audition, followed by a callback, followed by a second callback. It was a couple of days ago, so right now I'm at the point of wondering whether I will either get a booking out of it or get nothing out of it. Because the popular misconception is that producers will call you and say, sorry, better luck next time, we're going with someone else. That does happen, but it happens extremely rarely. Most of the time, if you didn't get the job, you'll be ignored. You'll hear nothing.
Exactly. That's why you shouldn't be waiting around. You should always keep moving forward with projects and such.
Exactly, which is why the thing to do is not wait by the phone and get on with your life. And if they call, they call, and if they don't, there are tons more auditions today.
What is it like to be one of the most well-known, lovable villains in video game history?
That might be a bit of an understatement, but assuming for the moment that it's true, it's a great honor and great fun. I'm delighted to not only be associated with such a successful franchise over these years, but also as a character that gets to be so much fun, both when he's being comic and goofy or vicious and evil.
What are some of your favourite television shows or films you've been watching?
I guess I've been watching The Simpsons and Family Guy fairly regularly. And the family enjoys watching the Graham Norton show because he's extremely hysterical when he interviews people. Someday, I'm sure. I'd love to be a guest, not that that's going to happen, but should he call, I'll be right over. But most of the time I spend listening to the radio and comedy on the radio and podcasts on the radio. Cool.
When you're not voice acting, what do you like doing in your free time?
I've got 2 wild children that need to be managed, so my wife and I spend lots of free time managing the children. Other than that, the internet's always a fun thing. Again, I've got podcasts that I listen to when I'm riding the bus into and out of New York City. But otherwise, just surfing the web, reading stuff. I've got a little, some podcasts that I administer for some people. It takes up some time, a little volunteer work.
What type of music do you like?
As a person of the theater, I'm always partial to show tunes because I've performed in some musicals, so show tunes are a thing for me. And also when I was writing song parodies for the radio syndication company that I worked for, I had great fun writing parodies of oldies and country songs. So I listen to those as well.
What would be the best way to get into the industry if you want to do voice acting or stuff similar to what you're doing?
There's a book available on my website called Voice for Hire, written by my voiceover coach that I had worked with. But the best thing to do is learn to act, either in school or community theater, so that you have experience acting on stage and with people. Because when you are going to audition for any kind of role, be it an animation role or a straight narration role or a commercial role, they're going to expect you to be able to act. So you've got to be able to go into the room and just know what you're doing. So an acting background is good to have. Then build up a professional voiceover reel, which you can have someone professionally produce, or you can try doing it yourself, but they're expected to be of a certain professional level. So if you don't have audio production experience, don't bother doing it yourself. But then you got to shop it around to studios and agents and managers and hope some people will be interested in it.
When it comes to a project, there are many different elements that go into animation, like the music, the sound, the visuals and stuff like that. Do you feel voicing a character properly is the key to sewing that character to the story?
Yeah, but as long as you consider that voicing is just part of it, there's the voice, but there's also the acting and the emotion behind it and the little intricacies. So yeah, as long as if you can bring all the elements together, then you got something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, what is your favourite type of ice cream?
A good mocha chip. There are wide varieties of flavored relatives of the flavor. Probably if I had to pick a favorite, Ben and Jerry's Coffee Buzz Buzz Buzz, which is coffee with a bit of different stuff in it. But a good solid coffee base and some type of mix in.
Nice, very nice. And do you have anything to say to the fans who are watching us or listening to this?
Thanks. Thank you for watching and listening.
Once again, thank you for taking your time out and being on the show.